Welcome to another episode of the Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Dr. Dave Peltz, and along with me is my esteemed colleague and sidekick extraordinaire, Dr. Joe Hamlett. How are you doing today, Dr. Joe?
I'm doing pretty good, Dr. Day.
For those of you who are returning, thank you. If this is your first time, thank you again. This is the personal, professional, and career development podcast. For those of you who are viewing, you will see that we have a guest speaker. For those of you who are listening, now you know we have a guest speaker. And I'd like to introduce Dr. Chuck Herring. Dr. Chuck, how are you doing today?
Incredible. How are you, gentlemen?
Doing
Good,
excellent.
sir. Good.
Why don't you take a couple minutes and tell the audience a little bit about yourself before we jump into today's topic?
Oh, wow. Okay, well, Chuck Herring, uh, 6'3", 250 pounds, just off. But no, just who am I? I'm just a guy who loves to help, loves to support, wants everybody to win, especially if they're attempting to win. I am here to be your cheerleader, to be your coach, to be your motivator, to be your inspiration. My mentor, one of my mentors once said to me, you need to have a prayer on your lips and a sermon in your pocket. So I'm here to tell you that. And what I interpreted that is that you don't have to get ready if you stay ready. So I'm trying to just stay ready for everything because I was not expecting you to say, introduce yourself. So, but I think I did an okay job of
I
it.
think you did too. We lost you, Dave.
I'm starting to feel like I'm the short little guy in the room. So 6'3" and 250, that's like almost two of me. So, well, thank you for joining us. And today's topic is everything is a drum. And Dr. Chuck Herring was mentioning, talking to us a little bit about that before we started the show. So, Chuck, can you elaborate on what is meant by everything is a drum?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. It's a life's philosophy. I actually didn't know that. The title came to me after watching a movie, James Brown biopic. I think it's called Get On Up. But the is that everything goes together in life. And when you really start understanding that things go together for the greater good, then you really see how everything is a drum. Everything does match up. So just to give you a short little narrative from that movie that led me to saying that everything is a drum is that there's a particular scene when the band is rehearsing with James Brown, and there's a new member of the band, and he's a classically trained musician, and he changes something that Mr. Brown wants to be in place, and he said, "What's going on?" And he tells him, he said, "Mr. Brown, it doesn't work musically. You know, the drums and the guitar and the bass, they're all out of time." And he was like, what do you have in your hand? He said, well, sir, it's a saxophone. He said, uh-uh. He asked another member of the band, what is that in his hand? He said, it's a drum, Mr. Brown. And he said, the guy who was sitting at a piano, what are you having? What are you sitting in front of? He's like, it's a drum. Another guy who's on the guitar, it's a drum. And he said, so we all got our drums. And now we're playing our drums. Drums don't have to be in key. Drums don't have to be in the right time. They have to feel good. They have to sound good. Does it feel good? Does it sound good? And he said, yes. And he said, so then it's good. So everything is a drum. And
Mm.
that's the way, basically it's been my life thing, my life's philosophy, my life's experiences have shown me that. Read an amazing book. I read it every year. Actually, I read it. I usually wait till New Year's to read it, but I knew I was going to be busy on New Year's. And so I actually read it on Friday of last week. And it's The Alchemist. And I don't know if you're familiar with it, but The Alchemist by, I think, the gentleman, I know his first name is Paolo, but I can never say his last name. I think it's Coelho. But in that book, he talks about all things are one. And
Mm.
so,
Okay.
again, all things are one. Everything is a drum. Everything goes together when everything goes together in order for you to be in harmony with the world and to live your life's purpose.
Wow.
Wow. Wow.
That's a lot to unpack. That's
Right.
that's awesome. I mean, so what I'm kind of picking up on, and I could be a little or a lot off, is that we're all here doing what we're doing to help other people become better at what they're doing and what we're doing. And that goes along with the show that Joe and I put together. You know, we're here to help other people, and that's our mission, is to help
Mhm.
other people and give people like yourself and others a platform to share their wisdom and experience. Because as much as Joe and I think we know everything, well, we don't think we know everything. We don't know. We know we don't know everything, and it's, you know, it's great to have guests on like you and to share your experience. And I'm curious to learn more.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and so when you talk about everything is a drum, it takes me back to the saying, and I probably don't get it right, but everybody marches to their own drum or something to that effect. That's kind of in alignment with what you're saying, that we all, have different reasons, different whys, different purposes. But as long as we're marching to our own drum, it shouldn't matter. It should still blend. It still should work. So that's what I kind of take out of this, that, yeah, you may be doing, like you say, you may be playing the drum, but really you have a saxophone, but it's still in alignment with everything else, because that's what you're supposed to be doing. So that's kind of what I take out of that whole thing as a drum, and it makes sense. Yeah, because we're all different. We're all on different journeys, and so for us to try to align or try to fit in whatever, that we always talk about, the square peg in a round hole. That's what you're trying to do when you take the drum away from you. Your drum. I mean, you're trying to make somebody play an instrument they don't want to play, or do something they don't want to do. So I can get it. It makes sense to me.
And I think even more so, not even what they don't want to is what they may not even be capable of.
Uh,
Mm.
Yep. Yep.
So it's like there's so many people who have been told and been basically pushed into spaces that doesn't maximize their gifts and abilities.
Yeah.
And so you're here in this space. I have a good friend. Her name is Ebtahal Badawi. She's a Saudi woman, uh, scientist, super intelligent woman. But her gift is building bridges. She's an artist and she brings people together through art. And her family wanted her to be a scientist. So she did
Mm.
that. But eventually she just couldn't do it anymore. And she started creating art. And through her art, here, I'm here in the greater Pittsburgh region. And here in the greater Pittsburgh region, we're known as the city of bridges. We have three rivers, we have all this stuff. So she actually paints this one bridge and does this installation in different places all over the region. And it's a unity bridge, but it's really the Roberto Clemente bridge. And so she's been doing this for, I want to say, for about 8 or 9 years. And beginning 2 years ago, the city actually gave her Building Bridges Day, and they shut down the Roberto
Oh, wow.
Clemente Bridge for her to have an entire festival on that.
Mm.
Now, if she was still being a scientist, would she be
Right.
living her drum?
Mm.
Right. Wow.
Yeah,
She wouldn't,
that's
you know what I'm saying? So it's like
yeah.
we all, everything is a drum. Everything comes together in order for us to give what we need to the world.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like Joe had mentioned, and you know, we're all on our own journeys, and Joe and I are on our own individual journeys. We're on our journeys together, and now we're on a journey with you, you know,
Mhm.
and it's that relational cohesion that I think bonds people, you know, and I do believe that more people want to do good. They just need a platform or space to be able to share that with people. One of our previous guests, you know, had a very unfortunate upbringing, turned his life around, and now is totally giving back to the community with utilizing urban literacy. And you know, it just goes to show that just because you wake up in an environment, it doesn't mean you have to stay there.
Mhm.
You can go where you want to go. Just like Joe and I, we started school later in life, and Joe much later than me, you know, and you know, we did it. We achieved our doctorate degrees, despite or in spite of what everyone else was saying, or what society or the culture that we were in was saying. Oh, you can't do that. You shouldn't do that. What if this? What if that? That's what we decided to do, and we went for it, and we knocked it out of the park. So you know, it goes to show, I believe it goes to show that, you know, you can it's important to find out who you are so you can get to where you want to be and find your happiness and find your happy place.
And it goes back to what Chuck said. It is, we talk about drums, or we're talking about people living the lives
Mhm.
that's in front of them. But a lot of times it's because we don't know that we're capable of doing these things. And that's what it was for me, just not knowing that I had the ability to become a doctor or anything else. But to, yeah, again, it wasn't, I didn't have any examples of it, and again, coming from, uh, humble beginnings, to not see those things around me and not be exposed to those things, and then falling into those type of categories. But in a lot of cases, a lot of people are not given that opportunity, or they don't recognize it when it's there in front of you. And for me, that happened when I really opened my eyes to the possibilities. And I think that's where some people are still kind of blocked with, okay, what am I supposed to be doing? Where am I supposed to be going? And in most cases, it takes that self realization that you want to move forward, that you want to do your own thing. Like you're just talking about the young lady who now is a, you know, painter, and doing the things she wants to do, where everybody else told her she should be doing these other things. And so a lot of us get caught up in that, and not being able to kind of shine a light on the things that we really want to do, because we want to be a good citizen, we want to be a good provider, we want to do all these things that other people think we should be doing, rather than listening to our own guiding light of what we want to do or what we should be doing. So a lot of times it's, we just don't realize that we have the capabilities or the ability.
Wow. Yeah, you guys hit on a lot. Uh, there's a lot of things that are going on. You were talking about the stuff, Dr. Joe, and I was just really just thinking about, again, I don't have you guys, are you guys familiar with The Alchemist?
I've heard it. I have
I've
not
heard of it.
read it.
Well, I'm
But
going
I
to
know
tell you
people
right
have.
now, it takes about 3, 4 hours to read.
Okay.
Pick it up. If you have a Kindle, get it. Get it today. Make it your New Year's, one of your resolutions if you do resolutions. Read it, because what you're talking about now is it's like your heart speaking to the soul of the world. Those are the language. That's the language that's in there. It's like, dude, that's the stuff that I was thinking, but I didn't have the language to be able to say it back then, right?
Right.
But Dr. Dave, you said something that earlier about decide. And the most powerful words in our language are really end in side, and that suffix side. It's like if you think about homicide or suicide, and those are powerful words, but the number one word is decide. When you make that decision, when you decide to do something, hell or high water is not going to stop you. You're either going to
Yeah.
die at the side of the road or make it to wherever the goal is, because you're like, I made a decision to make this happen. And so once you make that decision to make it happen, it's over. And it's over for all the naysayers, because people are going to try to tell you what you can
Yeah.
and what you cannot do. And you're still going to be like, look, I'm going to do this. Why? Because I decided that I was going to do it. Look
Yeah.
at you. I mean, I know, Dr. Joe, you said you went and got an associate's, and you went from an associate's to a doctorate in 9 years.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I
That's
keep
in,
telling him that.
Think,
I keep
think,
telling him
think
that.
about
thinking
that.
back, it is. It is.
Just think about it. That's an amazing accomplishment. And you made a decision though. You
Right.
decided. So again, those things where you decide, they really just it's that extra juice, when you make that decision. And so, but people allow, unfortunately, and we had a short conversation about this before we started recording. Some of the reasons why we didn't do things differently, little, earlier on in our lives, is because we were taught to shoot for the floor and not for the moon or the stars.
Yep.
It's like just get the basic.
Yep.
I was told get a 2.0. So what did I graduate with? A 2.3. Again, from one of the least performing school districts in the state. So I was mediocre in one of the worst performing school districts. But now I'm a doctor at the number one school district, so it is what it is. You would have never told me that I would have been a doctor or
Right.
that I would have been working in a school. Come on, man. I love going to school, hated going to class.
This conversation is making me really, you know, recontemplate on on how we get from point A to point B. And I think two of the things I struggled with up until the point that I did decide was I needed to ask for help. You know, the
Hmm.
military taught us to be independent and take care of each other, not ask for help, you know. And, you know, or at least that's what they taught me as law enforcement. You're the go-to person. You help others. You don't ask for help, that you take care of other people. And so asking for help was something I was not comfortable with. And then the other piece was surrounding myself with the right people. You know, asking for help from the right people and then surrounding myself with those right people helped me make the decision, helped me have the support to get out of my rut and get on with the rest of my life and step into a positive lane instead of that stagnant lane.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, definitely, go back to, I talk about my mentors. There's several mentors that I've had. Uh, you know, my grandmothers, they put a lot of wisdom into me. Parents, they gave me what they could for where they were. They were teenagers, but they grew up and they were able to share some things with me. My college mentors, like they really helped mold me. Like they were men who I never met men like this in my life coming from, like the way you framed it, Dr. Joe, humble beginnings. I didn't know, heck, I didn't know what a CPA was until I was in college. I'm like, what's a CPA? It's like, I'm going to be a CPA. Career path acting. I don't know what.
I thought it was one of those things that you put on your face to help you sleep at night.
Yeah. Had no idea, certified public accountant, didn't know what that was. But, you said something, it's about relationships. And again, grandma said, or Nana, you hang around five broke people, you're going to be the sixth one.
Yeah.
But if you hang
Mhm.
around five brilliant people, you'll be the sixth one. It is what it is. You can't be the smartest person in your group. If you're the smartest person in your group, you need a new group.
Yeah.
Just the way it
Wow.
works,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You got to be around people who are smarter than you. They can stretch you. They can help you grow. They can help you get to the next level. So I'm always leveling up. I'm always looking for help, man. Help is just that's the true definition of maturity is to show that you're vulnerable.
Mhm.
See,
Yeah.
I'm not from the military. I wasn't a military person. Like I said, my roomie, my fraternity brother, he's a military person. But I didn't see that in him. We all asked me for help. I got to, I asked him for help. So I can see that. And I can see, I don't know that training because whenever I had a challenge, I'm like, man, I'm not going to be able to do this by myself. I need some people. So I have peers, colleagues, friends that I can call on to this day. I'm a number one advocate of team building. I think that my best gift was something that would get you in trouble back in the day when we were in schools. Like I was still in school, and Dr. Joe, I know you were still in school when they had paddles in schools.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
now I never got paddled, thank God.
I did.
I did.
Yeah.
It
So, but
didn't take too many times either.
but it was one of those things where, again, mentors shared this with me. PE people, OPE people. Personal experience was other people's experience. I saw other people getting paddled. I knew that line just to go right up to. I was
Mm,
like, all
mm,
right,
okay.
this is the line I can go to save face and still not get in trouble, right? And
Right. Yeah.
but having these people, in your lives where they come and they share the types of valuable information, these adjunct faculty members in your life, because again, asking for help is a true sign of just maturity, because we can't do it all by ourselves. I don't care what anybody says. Uh, Steve Jobs needed Steve Wozniak.
Right.
He had to have him. Brilliant dude. Wouldn't have been able to do it without Woz. You know what I'm saying? They wouldn't have been able to do it without the guy from, I think it's from Pepsi or something. They got to a certain level. You needed some more help. You got to grow. You got to do this. You don't know how to get there. You knew how to get to this point. I know how to get to
Right.
this point. I don't know how to
Yep.
get to the next point. And that's what
Yep.
this is all about. It's always about, okay, I can get here, but who can help me get to there? But you know what? I'm not just looking for somebody that can help me. I'm looking for somebody that can help me and I can also help.
Right. Yep.
So there's people in our lives where the relationships are not transactional, they're more so transformative.
Mhm.
Right.
Because we do, and I'm sorry, I'm just getting over a cold. Well, still have a little something going on in me. So let me take a swig of water here. The relationships are transformative. So we support one another. So I have friends who are like C-suite level folks in major multinational companies. And they come to me for information about how to be a how to raise their children better.
Yep.
Because, my wife and I, we did a pretty good job. I mean, I can say this, without, you know, I tell these people, I tell people all the time, I tell my students this all the time. I tell them it's okay to be full of yourself. And because people will tell you not to be, don't be so full of yourself. I'm
Mhm.
like, the reason why people tell you not to be full of yourself is because they want to fill you up with stuff. And most of the time they want to fill you full of shit.
That's
Now, I don't use
awesome.
that word with the kids, but that's what I'm saying, right? So don't listen to them. Be full of yourself, but don't be, you know, Mardi Gras head type
Yeah.
person.
Right.
Just have
Yep.
that
Yep.
relaxed intensity, that confidence.
Mhm.
But as parents, my wife and I did an amazing job. The number one thing I can say is that our kids moved out and never came back.
Yep. Yep.
I'm like, people are like, that happened. Yes. Our kids, we do okay. My wife and I do okay. Our kids, all three of them make more money than us.
That's
You
what we
know, so
want,
it's
right?
like,
That's what we want. We want our kids
exactly,
better for our kids, better for others.
exactly. So we just have to make sure that we people come to us because for advice. They come to us for ways to have good relationships. They come, so it's like, and then we're talking to them about, okay, so how did you get to this point where you're C-suite level person at X corporation that's in 48 countries and da 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 da. Like that again, somebody who starts from humble beginnings,
Yeah.
you don't understand how, like literally, if we're talking about some people were born on third base and they think they hit a triple. I know my wife and I, we were born about 3 bus lines away from the stadium to get to the stadium, to get up to bat, to get to third base, right? So we finally made it up to the plate, in our 50s. We made it up to the plate and
Mhm.
we got some swings and we got on base. And our kids, they were born in the stadium. So then they were able to
Mhm.
get to bat
Yep.
sooner,
Yep.
right?
So,
So again, it's not transactional, it's transformative. And one more thing, I know that I'm a big hip hop guy. I grew up on hip hop. I I write songs, I did things. One of the things that I'm most proud of is that I wrote the theme song wrote, produced, and recorded the theme song for the Jerome Bettis and the Heinz Ward TV shows
Oh
here.
wow.
So that was
Okay.
pretty cool. And I didn't produce the Heinz Ward show, the song. That was a good friend of mine. He produced that music, but I wrote the song. And good friend of mine, my big bro, Lou Berry. Um, but being able to do that stuff, growing up in hip hop, um, there's a saying in hip hop, and it talks about, and you don't stop and you won't quit.
Yep.
So it's like, won't stop, won't quit. That's a mantra.
Right.
Chuck, everything you're saying is just so powerful. I mean, and I'm just, I could just sit here and listen to you for hours. I'm wondering for those in our audience and even for Joe and I, if you haven't found your drum, what would you say to those people? How would you help them, or what advice would you give them to help them find their drum so they can actually start playing it?
Huh. That's the challenging part. That's it.
Yep.
You have to find out what your personal legend is. That's again from The Alchemist, the personal legend. But basically, I would say is, what brings you joy?
Yep.
What brings you joy? That's the big thing. What is the thing in your life that makes you feel as though you could do this without making any money? That you just
Yep.
want to get up and do. And it's not something that gives you stress, it gives you harmony. What is that? I know what mine is. And like I said, I kind of got off track. I was saying about getting, we had paddling in school. I talked a lot. That was my I was like, jeez. Nobody told me though that being really good at talking could make you money.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were always told to
Yeah.
Yeah.
you're destructive. And it's like, we don't have this in school anymore, which is really disheartening to me. But it used to be like citizenship.
Yeah.
Mm,
And citizenship taught us how to be good citizens.
yeah.
My citizenship was like basically they taught us how to become compliant citizens, I think. But I think we should have citizenship to teach us about citizenshipness, I guess. Uh, but I always would get, it would be like outstanding S's and N's, outstanding, satisfactory, and N's for not satisfactory. I would always get N's in citizenship because I would be talking. I'm a social learner. I didn't know that that was such a thing. Like
Right.
I
Yep.
learned like, hey, what do you think about this? And the way the schools have things set up is that we're not set up to the way the world teaches you how to learn. Schools are set up in a polar opposite way. Schools are set up that as a student, you are required to not only have a little bit of knowledge, but to have mastery knowledge of every subject that you take. But the crazy thing is that the faculty is only expected to have mastery knowledge of the subject that they teach. So
Mm,
it's like, how is it that we're putting this on the students that they have to have mastery of English, of Spanish, of physics, of biology? You have to have mastery of all of this. And you can't go and ask for help because then that's
wow.
considered cheating. But when you're in your job, look, I'm not an accountant. I'm going to go ask Joe because he's an accountant.
Right.
He
Right.
knows
Mhm.
this.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do here, Joe. Joe, tell me what to do. I will do exactly what you say, and then we'll do it. And Joe might even be like, you know what? I'm just going to do this because I know how to do this. It'll take me 2 minutes. It'll take you 2 hours.
Yep.
Here it is, done. Thanks, Joe. In school, that's considered cheating. So we set up kids for that type of failure and not wanting to ask, but being able to ask questions, being able to ask for help. That is huge. Being able to break that paradigm, that is huge. Congratulations, Dr. Dave, for being able to break that paradigm. And I would say to help people find their drum, you have to figure out who you are and maximize that person's potential. And how do you do that? Again, being a hip hop person, Tupac once said that the game is to be sold and not to be told. And I'm like, I totally disagree with that. I think the game is to be told and not sold. And the reason why I'm not even just believe that, I know it to be true because the more you give, the more you receive. And people don't tend to do what you tell them to do anyway, even if you give them all the answers. So
Right.
it's like,
Yep. Yep.
I'm giving you all the answers. You
Yep.
have the answers, and you're still going to do what you want to do. That goes back to personal experience versus other people's experience.
Yep.
Most people are PE type people. I just happen to be an OPE type person. I can learn a lot from learning from other people.
Yep. That's again, that's the premise of this podcast. That's why we do this. That's why we bring people on with different perspectives and to offer people their knowledge and experience. And we've said this many times on the podcast. If one person gets something out of all of these episodes that we put out there, then it was well worth it.
Mhm.
Because the idea is, like you said, you take the pieces that make sense to you. Like I think you touched on it too. You give somebody a blueprint of exactly how to do it. It's not going to work the exact same way for them. So they are going to have to, infuse other things that make sense to them. And so
Mhm.
that's what this is all about. That's again giving people as much information and helping them to have options and situations where they can utilize these things. It's not about just here, this is how you do it, this is how you become a doctor, this is how you become that. No, it's about here's some experiences that might help you make your decisions along the way and along your journey, because they're not going to fit the same way, but just giving you as much as we can. And that again, that's what podcast is all about, just helping
Good
people.
stuff. everything
So
can be
just a
done.
quick time check, gentlemen. We're down to the last couple of minutes. That went by a lot faster than I thought it was going to.
Yeah, dude.
So, uh, Dr. Chuck Herring, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for joining us and sharing this time with us. What are your final thoughts? What would you like to? What are your final thoughts on everything as a drum that you'd like to share with the audience?
Um, I think that what I would like to share with the audience is to be nice to yourself,
Hmm.
to give yourself grace, to know that we all screw up, to know that doesn't matter where a person is in their career, in their lives, in their life, in their relationships. Everybody has challenges. Again, mentor told me when it rains on everybody's house. We all are dealing with it. Um, I would say that you're more than capable, you're more than enough. And we all start somewhere. We all start somewhere, but it's all about that, going back to those powerful words that decide, making that decision. That that's super important, don't let anybody get you off of your square. Don't be don't allow people to fill you up with their crap. You know, be full of yourself. Be full of yourself. So I think that those are some things that I would leave folks with.
Awesome.
Oh, one more thing. And I would say that um, once your mind has been expanded, it can't ever go back to a certain
Yep.
size.
Absolutely. Yep.
So always be open to learning. Always. Because once you get that in you, you can't unlearn it. It's learned. So keep learning.
Well, thank you for that, Chuck. Joe, Dr. Joe, what are your final thoughts?
I go back and Dr. Chuck just said it. He said it again, decide. And I think that is a very powerful word because again, once you make that decision to achieve something, you set that goal and put it in your mind, then you are going to do everything it takes to get you to that decision, whatever you decide to do. And I think that once people make that decision, it does make it easier. Now you're going to go figure out, how do I get there? How do I make it happen? The decision part is the hardest part. Once you get that, then everything starts to align. And then I also agree with continue to learn. Uh, just that keeping your mind open to the possibilities. I say that all the time, just because that's the case. You don't know what you don't know, and again, the more you learn, and it can't be taken from you. And I tell I've said this on many episodes in the past. It's hard for me to sleep at night just because I have so many things going through my head about the possibilities, about the potential for something. So I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Joe. And thanks again, Dr. Chuck Herring, for joining us. Um, we want to thank our viewers and listeners for joining us on another episode of the Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast, your personal, professional, and career development podcast. And if this is your first time, again, thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you're returning, even more thanks. Like, share, subscribe, get this word out there. We're only getting bigger next year in season 4, right around the corner. So with that, we want you to keep on being your not so ordinary you.